All right, welcome. We are going to go ahead and get started now. Want to share some things with everybody here. I know some people are going to probably pop on in the next minute or two or three and be joining us, but we're going to go ahead and get rolling now. First thing I want to do is go ahead and share my screen and share a few things with you guys that'll be important going forward. Um, One of the things I want to share with you is that we have a Facebook group that you can go ahead and join with us. It coincides with these Monday through Friday trainings, teachings, classes, whatever you want to call them, that we're going through. It has the same name as the meetup group. I want to be really rich, and I do not apologize for it. And I want to share some other things, but it looks like Google. Oh, here we go. It's coming back. All right. Yes. Move a couple things out of the way. There's things on my screen you can't see that I just needed to move around. To find this Facebook group, you can go to facebook.com/groups/ I want to be really rich. So facebook.com/groups/ I want to be really rich. And this is a place where we can interact outside of, again, these 45-minute times we have together Monday through Friday. It is also where we will be putting the recordings of these meetings, as long as I remember to record them, which I usually do. But this is where those will be archived and where you can go take a look at them. If I go down here a little bit, the first one that you come up to says announcement 1. What this particular video is actually an introduction to the. You were sent that through Meetup originally anyway and had a chance to look at it, but if not, you can find it here. And it'll tell you more about the group. It'll also give you a little more background on myself. That way I don't have to take that much time each session doing that. And then you will see that as we do things, see, here's what we did yesterday, here's what we did the day before, and so on and so forth. So that's how you can, again, get access if you missed something, if you came on late, or if you just really like something and you want to go back and review it. That's the way you can do it easily. Okay, the next thing I want to share with you is a particular book that we are in the process of kind of dissecting and studying here. It's a book called The Science of Getting Rich. Now, there's different ways you can get your own copy of this book if you like. Of course, you could go to Amazon or something, easily get a paperback copy. You could also definitely find copies of Kindle. I happen to have both of those. However, for those that didn't want to spend any money or wanted to have the exact same copy so it'd be easier to follow along with what we're doing, all I did to find this particular copy is I went to Google and I typed in Science of Getting Rich PDF, and organically, one of the very first, if not the first organic search result that popped up was from thesecret.tv, as you can see up here. And I went ahead and clicked that particular one. It opened up into this PDF, and then I went ahead and downloaded it and saved it. So I have access to it. By the way, thesecret.tv, if you've heard of the movie or the book The Secret, that's the website for Rhonda Byrne. And what she does, she read this book, was given to her by her daughter. And as a result of receiving the book, The Science of Getting Rich, and studying it and learning what was in it, she went ahead and made the decision at that point to create the book and the movie, The Secret. So definitely has had an impact on probably millions of people. As far as typing into chat, that's fine. You can chat amongst yourselves. While I'm going through this, I'm not going to be checking chat myself because then I'd have to constantly stop what we're doing. So here's kind of how we roll here. What we do is, again, I do an introduction. We will be talking about a particular topic or going through a book and dissecting it. And then I'll be sharing some thoughts and commentary while we do that. What I like to do is leave somewhere around maybe 10 to 15 minutes towards the end of our session so that people can share their comments, share their ahas, share their experiences, and or ask questions about what we are talking about and what we're doing. So I definitely love participation from you guys and want you to go ahead and participate. We're just leaving that until then. And so I'm not going to pop into chat throughout this to answer questions because it would just, again, detract from what we're trying to do. If you've seen the movie The Secret, if you haven't and you have access to Netflix, highly recommend that you watch it. And the book is highly recommended too. I've both seen the movie and read the book. The other thing that you might want to do, again, is to copy The Science of Getting Rich and follow along with us. If you get the copy from thesecret.tv, we are currently on page 28. We started this a few days ago and have been diving into it and going through it. Why do I even care about it? Short, because again, we have a video for my background, but I've had many people that have made an impression on me in my life and have been trainers and mentors and teachers. However, I'm just going to mention two real quick and briefly that have probably had the biggest impact, probably more than any other reason, because I got to spend personal time learning from them. One, not so much on the side of law of attraction, although I know he actually believes in law of attraction to some extent, is a gentleman by the name of Robert Kiyosaki. Robert Kiyosaki is the author of Rich Dad Poor Dad and the creator of the Cash Flow Game. And once upon a time, I worked with him and Sharon Lechter as an advisor over at their Rich Dad companies in Arizona. When I say I worked for them, I wasn't an employee or anything. I was brought in as a consultant to help them grow their business, and I got the opportunity to see the inside of what was going on and learned a whole lot being around Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter and getting the opportunity to interact and ask questions. And so that has impacted my thoughts and thinking and training around money, entrepreneurship, business, and investing. Another person, big mentor of mine, is a gentleman by the name of Bob Proctor. If you haven't heard of Bob Proctor, maybe you've heard of his book, You Were Born Rich, or maybe you've seen him in the movie The Secret or saw his words in the book The Secret, heavily highlighted there. Bob Proctor, once upon a time, after he became wealthy, decided he wanted to learn more. He became wealthy, but he didn't fully understand how it all came about. And he wanted to know how it came about so that he could duplicate it and help others. He ended up working with Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant. Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant actually introduced him to this book. And it's because Earl Nightingale and Lloyd Conant got together and read the book, The Science of Getting Rich, that they made the decision to create the Nightingale Conant Corporation, which was essentially the first regular producer of personal development and self-help material. Myself personally, I was introduced to this book early 2006. I went to a Science of Getting Rich seminar taught by a gal by the name of Leslie Householder. She was a coach and a facilitator for Bob Proctor's programs back then. She put on the Science of Getting Rich seminar for 3 days. And at the end of the 3 days also gave all of us a self-study course that Bob Proctor had created. I went through that over and over and over during about the next 3 months. And by the time April had rolled around that year, I quit my job and started to be an entrepreneur. And my income went from $5,000 to $6,000 a month on average at the job that I had. That over the next 8 months, the average went up to $50,000. So definitely a huge impact on me and the training that I've received. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to go through this particular book and this training, is because I know it can, I'm not saying it will, that's up to you and how open-minded you are, but it can have a very strong impact on your life. I've talked to people who've read it before, and then after they've gone through it and studied it with myself, because I am a law of attraction coach, that's my profession at this time, who said, wow, it's just different going through it now, and I'm getting way more aha moments. So we're going to go ahead and hop into this. Like I said, I won't be going into chat until we've got about 10 or 15 minutes left. And then we will all get to share with each other, ask questions, share commentary, whatnot. All right, so if you want to follow along, you can obviously see the screen. If you want to get your own copy, we are in page 28 of the PDF. I don't know if it's page 28 of the book, but I do know it's page 28 of the PDF. How riches come to you. When I say that you do not have to drive for sharp bargains, by the way, this book was written by Wallace Wattles and it was published in 1910. So he's going to speak obviously differently than we do today a little bit, according to what the times were back then, okay? So he will speak in terms that maybe occasionally will be a little challenging to understand, or, you know, from the sexist place, he'll be speaking from he. He doesn't always say she or her. I'll add in occasionally myself, but understand it was the times, and that hopefully that doesn't bother you. And he's referring back to something he said a chapter earlier. When I say that you do not have to drive sharp bargains, I do not mean that you do not have to drive any bargains at all, or that you are above the necessity for having any dealings with your fellow men. I mean that you will not need to deal with them unfairly. You do not have to get something for nothing, but you can give to every man or woman more than you take from them. You cannot give every man more in cash value or cash market value than you take from him, but you can give him more in use value than the cash value of the thing you take from him. For instance, the paper, ink, and other materials in this book may not be worth the money you paid for it, but if the ideas suggested by it bring you thousands of dollars, you've not been wronged by those who sold it to you. They have given you a great use value for a small cash value. Let us suppose that I own a picture by one of the great artists, which in any civilized community is worth thousands of dollars. I take it to Bath and Ray, and by salesmanship, induce an Eskimo to give a bundle of furs worth 500 for it. I've really wronged him, for he has no use for the picture. It has no use value to him. It will not add to his life. Okay, the key is he did it by salesmanship, right? It wasn't really something that the Eskimo wanted or was searching for, but he did a lot of salesmanship, a lot of convincing to get the Eskimo to buy it. And it wasn't really something that was going to be useful to him. And maybe he didn't even care about art. Probably what he was told, though, is that it is worth thousands of dollars potentially. But to the Eskimo himself, it really wasn't. Okay. But suppose I gave him a gun worth $50 for his furs. Now, granted, that's only 10%, right, of the value potentially of those furs. Then he has made a good bargain, because let's pretend he was hunting with traps and things like that, and he didn't have a gun. He has use for the gun. It will get him many more furs and much food. It will add to his life in every way. It will make him rich. When you rise from the competitive to the creative plane, you can scan your business transactions very strictly. And if you are selling any man anything which does not add more to his life than the thing he gives you in exchange, you can afford to stop it. You do not have to beat anybody in business. And if you are in a business which does beat people, get out of it at once. Give every man in use value, or give every man more, in use value than you take from him in cash value. Then you're adding to the life of the world by every business transaction. If you have people working for you, you must take from them more in cash value than you pay them in wages. But you can so organize your business that it will be filled with the principle of advancement, and so that each employee who wishes to do so may advance a little every day. You can make your business do for your employees what this book is doing for you. You can so conduct your business that it will be a sort of ladder by which every employee who will take the trouble may climb to riches himself. And given the opportunity, if he will not do so, it is not your fault. And finally, because you are to cause the creation of your riches from formless substance, which permeates all your environment, It does not follow that they are to take shape from the atmosphere and come into being before your eyes. For instance, if you want a sewing machine, I do not mean to tell you that you're to impress the thought of a sewing machine on thinking substance until the machine is formed without hands in the room where you sit or elsewhere. But if you want a sewing machine, hold the mental image of it with the most positive certainty that it is being made or is on its way to you. After once forming the thought, have the most absolute and unquestioning faith that the sewing machine is coming. Never think of it or speak of it in any other way than as being sure to arrive. Claim it is already yours. It will be brought to you by the power of the supreme intelligence acting upon the minds of men. If you live in Maine, it may be that a man will be brought from Texas or Japan to engage in some transaction which will result in your getting what you want. If so, the whole matter will be as much to that man's advantage as it is to yours. Do not forget for a moment that the thinking substance is through all, in all, communicating with all, and can influence all. Now, we probably have to talk about this for just a moment because we talked about it quite a bit in previous chapters, and he's referring back to those chapters. We're talking about the energy that the world is made of. People refer to it as a lot of different things. Wallace Wattles is going to refer to it as thinking substance, formless substance, original substance. On a scientific level, scientists today might refer to it as energy or matter. Okay. But it's the thing, it's the stuff that everything is, that we can see and use and touch and whatnot is formed out of. Everything on a molecular level, when you break it down, is made out of energy. Okay. It's just arranged in different formation and in different rates of vibration that determine what it actually looks like and feels like to us. All right. But understand, like he said, do not forget for a moment that the thinking substance is through all, in all, communicating with all, and can influence all. And the desire of thinking substance for fuller life and better living has caused the creation of all the machines already made, and it can cause the creation of millions more. And will, whenever men set in motion by desire and faith, and by acting in a certain way. You're going to hear reference to a certain way frequently also, and a certain way is by following the laws of the universe. Okay. And not in this particular chapter necessarily, and not strictly even in this book, but other materials and things and discussions we'll have. We'll go into more depth into what those laws are, because there's more than just the law of attraction that affects how we live our life and what we receive in our life. You can certainly have a sewing machine in your house, and it is just as certain that you can have any other thing or things which you want, and which you will use for the advancement of your own life and the lives of others. You do not, you need not hesitate about asking largely. It is your Father's pleasure to give you the kingdom, said Jesus. Original substance wants to live all that is possible in you, and wants you to have all that you can or will use for the living of the most abundant life. If you fix upon your consciousness the fact that the desire you feel for the possession of riches is one with the desire of omnipotence for more complete expression, your faith becomes invincible. Let's talk for a moment. Again, you have to go back. I highly recommend that you read this book. Go back to earlier chapters or go back to the different videos of what we've done up to this point. Okay, there's just a few of them to get caught up. We have an innate desire to be all that we can be, to do all that we want to do, and to have all that we want to have. Not necessarily strictly for the accumulation of stuff, okay, but we want to have things so that we can develop ourselves. I used the example yesterday of, somebody who wants to become a musician and they like the piano. And if they don't have use of a piano or something like a piano, if they, let's just say piano, okay, if they don't have the use of a piano in order to learn and practice, we don't know if they're going to become or could have had the ability to become a concert pianist. They won't ever know, and we will never know. Why? Because they didn't have the opportunity to use a piano on a regular basis because they didn't have one. Okay. They either didn't have one or didn't have the ability to rent one, or it was too difficult or tough for to use the neighbors, or the neighbor didn't have one. Anyhow, the point is somebody may have the innate talent and ability that's not developed completely and fully to do something. This person, it's along the lines of music and playing the piano and potentially being a concert pianist. But we don't know that, and neither do they. But they have this strong urge and desire to want to play the piano. Here's the issue: they don't have one. Why do they not have one? Because they don't have the money to buy one. Either themselves or their parents or whoever, they, for whatever reason, don't have the money for the piano. Therefore, by having lack of money, lack of riches, okay, they have a lack of a piano. And because of the lack of the piano, the person who had the ability to become a concert pianist never becomes a concert pianist. We don't necessarily want money. We want money for a lot of different reasons, but a lot of times they're not the ones that we think. What we have is we have within us the innate drive, the desire to unfold the talents that are within us and to become what we can become. There are also things that we absolutely want to do with our life. And if we don't have the money that allows us to purchase certain things that we need to do those things, then we're not able to do what we want to do. There are also things that we really want to have, some others, but we want to have them because of who we are. We all have different talents, abilities, and things, and we also have some similarities. However, if we don't have the ability to have the use of the things that we want to help us develop, then we're stuck. And because the world we live in and the way business is transacted around the world, the way that we receive things is we've got to have money to buy those things or to rent those things. If we don't have the money to buy or rent the things that will help us develop ourselves, then we're stuck. Okay. So that is what our desire to be rich is about. It's not about necessarily having stacks and stacks of money. It's about the ability to say, hey, you know what? I am interested in a particular sport. I want to go play that sport. And there are things involved with that sport that cost money. I have hobbies. Those hobbies, I need to have the use of things in order to develop and progress in those hobbies. I also, you know what? I'm a human being. I need a place to sleep. I need food to eat. I need clothes to wear. Depending on where you live, I need a form of transportation. All of those things are part of the way we live in society. And if we don't have the money in our lives necessary to purchase those things, we're not going to necessarily feel good because we are blocked in our progression. Okay. Let me come back to the book. If you fix upon your consciousness the fact that the desire you feel for possession of riches is one, okay, with the desire of omnipotence for more complete expression, your faith becomes invincible. Once I saw a little boy sitting at a piano and vainly trying to bring harmony out of the keys. And I saw that he was grieved and provoked by his inability to play real music. I asked him the cause of his vexation, and he answered, I can feel the music in me, but I can't make my hands go right. The music in him was the urge of original substance, containing all possibilities of all life, and that there is of music, or all that there is of music was seeking expression through the child. God, the one substance, is trying to live and do and enjoy things through humanity. He is saying, I want hands to build wonderful structures, to play divine harmonies, to paint glorious pictures. I want feet to run my errands, eyes to see my beauties, tongues to tell mighty truths, and to sing marvelous songs, and so on. All that there is a possibility is seeking expression through people. God wants those who can play music to have pianos and every other instrument, and to have the means to cultivate their talents to the fullest extent. He wants those who can appreciate beauty to be able to surround themselves with beautiful things. He wants those who can discern truth to have every opportunity to travel and observe. He wants those who can appreciate dress to be beautifully clothed, and those who can appreciate good food to be luxuriously fed. He wants all these things because it is himself that enjoys and appreciates them. It is God who wants to play and sing and enjoy beauty and proclaim truth and wear fine clothes and eat good food. It is God that worketh in you to will and to do, said Paul. The desire you feel for riches is the infinite, seeking to express himself in you as he sought to find expression in the little boy at the piano. This is important. So you need not hesitate to ask largely. Let me repeat that. So you need not hesitate to ask largely. Here's your part. Your part is to focalize and express the desire to God. Again, your part is to focalize and express the desire to God. This is a difficult point with most people. They retain something of the old idea that poverty and self-sacrifice are pleasing to God. They look upon poverty as a part of the plan, a necessity of nature. They have the idea that God has finished his work and made all that he can make. Excuse me. And that the majority of men must stay poor because there's not enough to go around. They hold to so much of this erroneous thought that they feel ashamed to ask for wealth. They do not try to want more than a very modest competence, just enough to make them feel fairly comfortable. I recall now the case of one student who was told that he must get in mind a clear picture of the things he desired, so that the creative thought of them might be impressed on formless substance. He was a very poor man, living in a rented house and having only what he earned from day to day. And he could not grasp the fact that all wealth was his. So after thinking the matter over, he decided that he might reasonably, here we go, reasonably, why is that? Because his own self-image wouldn't allow him to ask for what he really wanted. So, but he might reasonably ask for a new rug for the floor of his best room and an anthracite coal stove to heat the house during the cold weather. Following the instructions given in this book, he obtained these things in a few months. And then it dawned upon him that he had not asked enough. Why did that happen? Because the process for attracting the wealth that he wanted, for attracting the stove and the rug, the process, he learned that process and he realized he could have used it for anything that he had wanted, as long as he believed in it. And that's why, and then it dawned upon him that he'd not asked enough. So what did he decide to go do? Once he realized he understood the process for manifesting things he wanted, he went through the house in which he lived and planned all the improvements he would like to make in it. He mentally added a bay, and this is in his mind, okay, mentally. He mentally added a bay window here and a room there until it was completed in his mind as his ideal home. And then he planned its furnishings. Now, this was the work he had to do. I'm not saying he didn't do any physical labor whatsoever, all right? But this is the work he had to do to actually produce the wealth. And then he used some form of labor to actually receive what he wanted. And labor could have been as simple as reaching out and grabbing, okay? Or it may have been, some additional work that he did. It doesn't really matter. He was guided by God at that point on how to receive it, because here's what he did. Holding to the whole picture in his mind, he began living in the certain way, and that's obeying the laws. He learned the laws and started obeying them and moving toward what he wanted. So he did take some form of action. And he owns the house now and is rebuilding it after the form of his mental image. So now he owns the house that he rented. And now he's in the process of adding the bay window here and the thing there, right? And in decorating his home. And now, with still larger faith, he's going on to get greater things. Why does he have larger faith? Because again, he's been following the process, which helped him manifest the things that he wanted. He sees that if he obeys the laws and follows them, that he ends up with the outcome that he wants, which increases his faith and his belief, which makes it a little bit easier going forward. He is going on to get greater things. It has been unto him according to his faith, and it is so with you, or and it is and with all of us. Okay, let's see here. Gratitude. Oh man, one of my favorite chapters here. Definitely one of my favorites. However, for sake of time, we're not going to do this. We'll pop into this tomorrow. So let me go ahead and hop out of screen share really quick here, and let's see. We've grown in numbers since the beginning. Welcome, welcome. Glad to have all of you here with us now. And maybe what I'll do is screen share just really quick, one more moment for those who hopped on a little bit late. Just share with you that we have a Facebook group that coincides with what we're doing here and would invite you to join us here. Hopefully this will pop up quickly. Here we go. Has the same name as the meetup group. It's called I Want to Be Really Rich, and I do not apologize for it. I'm going to right now, let's see if this will, oh, come on. I'm going to take the Facebook URL and make it easier, a little easier for you guys right now. And go into chat. And let's see if I can get that posted in here for you guys. Okay. So if you want to click on the link and you happen to already be on Facebook, that will take you to this Facebook page and you can ask to join it. And of course, we'll let you in. And what you will find in here is the first one, an announcement. That's actually a video that will allow you to learn more about the group and a little bit more about myself. And then after that, you can see that we've been posting C11/10/2020. That was yesterday, and 11/9/2020 the day before. Anyhow, this is where we're putting the recordings, and it's another place where we can interact outside of the 45 minutes or so we have together each day. So just wanted to share that with you. Science of Getting Rich. Let's see if this will be easy enough to do. Yes. If you haven't found a copy yet for yourself, go into chat here. And I think if you click on this particular link, it will take you to the exact copy that we were going through and give you an opportunity to, read it and to follow along, catch up, whatever you want to do. All right, now going back into here. So we have some time together for some discussion here. If you have any comments that you'd like to share, everything needs to be on a positive note, okay? If you have any comments that you would like to share, if you have any experience with attracting money and wealth that you would like to share, if there's anything we read about that you would like to talk about, or maybe get some additional insight on, or if you have any questions that you would like to ask, now is the time we can go ahead and do that. What you can go ahead and do is just take yourself off of mute. First person to speak is the first person who can speak. And we will go ahead and take some time and do that until we run out of time. So any comments, any things that you would like to share, any questions that you have, go ahead and come off of mute and come out and say hello.
Hey, Kevin. It's Wig from Chicago.
Hey, good
I've
to
been
see you.
attending your yay.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about like that part where what God wanted, and I was raised Catholic. So on the
Okay.
New Testament, there is that parable where Jesus basically said that it's easier for a rich man for it's easier for a beggar for a camel
Mhm.
to go the thread of the needle than for a rich man to enter the gates of God. And that has always been sort of in the back of my head,
Uh-huh.
and I'm curious how I don't know your religious background, but how do you reconcile that?
Okay. Christian, just FYI, okay, religiously. So, read the Bible also. If you go, I mean, I don't go into a lot of study of it. Do you know what they're referring to is going through the eye of the needle? What that meant?
Well, from what I was taught, and it's been a long, long
Yeah,
time, it
and that's
was
okay.
more of yeah, and it's more of like the idea of afterlife, and I've heard different versions of it, but where
Do you know
I
what it
was taught
actually
that was
physically was? It actually
so
physically was an opening, and the only way to get a man could easily walk through the opening. Okay. However, symbolically, when a man tried to go through it with a loaded camel, if the camel was standing straight up, he could not get through the opening. What the camel had to do was actually kneel and crawl through the opening when he had a full load to be able to get through it. Now, symbolically, think about that one, right? If we're talking about being competitive, because you've been with us a few days, so if we're on the competitive plane, yes, it is hard for us because we think we did it all. Okay. When we're at work on the creative plane, we know where our good comes from. When we know where our good comes from and we accept it that way and treat it that way, then we look at it as gifts from God and help from God. We're not going to end up doing bad things with what we receive. See, the issue is not the having of money. The issue is of saying, I'm Superman in the sense of I'm more important than anybody else because I have money. Does that make sense to you?
thank you.
Okay. That's my way of looking at it. And I grew up too with a lot of programming around, is it okay to be rich, especially, as someone who believes in God and doesn't want to be bad and doesn't want to do bad things. Money essentially though is just a means of exchange. There are good rich people and there are bad rich people. There are good poor people and bad poor people. It's it's not necessarily the money itself, but it's how we feel about it and how we treat it. And I had to realize that, you know what, if I going back to talents and abilities and things like that, if I was lacking money and I had the desire to do something and I wasn't able to do it, unfortunately I was probably more likely to be a jerk and an ass to people than I would have been had I had the money, in the sense of, you know I was upset. I In living my life, two different lives, right? I'm trying to be this happy person who believes in God, and I'm this upset person that I'm broke or poor, right? And yeah, granted, I could pray and I was typically fed and typically had somewhere to sleep and stuff like that. But I mean, for the most part, the inside of me was screaming, not for the money, just for the sake of money. My freedom was being taken away from me. My ability to become what I could become, do what I could do, and have what I could have was halted because of money. And I realized, is God trying to help me progress, or is he happy to keep me where I'm at? And everything I've ever read or studied said, well, he wants me to progress and he wants me to do more good in the world, and not just be in my shell and do my thing. And I realized that, you know what, I was stunted in my progression because of money. And so it couldn't be that money was a terrible thing necessarily, but acquired on the competitive plane, yeah, it's a rough way to do it. One, it's a rough way to acquire it. You're always worried about losing it, and you tend to think that you're the one who made it happen, right? We do make things happen as far as the law of attraction goes, but we're not the one that actually does most of the work that makes it happen. We put out our thoughts, which create feelings, and those feelings put us in a vibration. And it's that vibration that impresses on the formless substance or energy. And then all it does is reflect back to us our thoughts, our feelings, and our attitudes. So hopefully that helps you. Cool. Any other comments or ahas, questions, anything you'd like to talk about? We got just a few minutes left. So you guys understand all of this. Y'all got it nailed, right? Everybody has all the money that they want.
Hi,
And
Kevin. I would like to say something.
hello, I see
Kevin.
2 eyebrows. Just
Hi.
yeah, hi,
Can you
hi,
say
Connie. I
something?
think it's I see your eyes at least a little. Oh, wow, pretty smile. There you go.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
I
you.
can see.
First of all, I want to say this is awesome work that you are doing, and I appreciate all of this. And I do have the Science of Getting Rich book, and I also follow Bob Proctor and love Bob Proctor. Would you explain, though, to the group about, and I may be jumping ahead of you. Today is my first day joining the
Okay,
webinar,
okay,
so I may be jumping a little bit ahead,
awesome.
but if you would explain to the group what living in a certain way and acting in a certain way and living in a certain way means to help us all be
Hmm.
clear on that,
Okay,
that would be helpful.
that will be helpful. It's a little in depth because it's going into the additional laws, which is going to be tough to do in a few minutes. But that's essentially what it means. Living in a certain way means there are laws that govern how the universe functions, most of which we're unaware. Law of attraction is just one, which is really the law of vibration. Okay. Um, and there are other, yeah, I intend to. So, yes, we are jumping ahead a little bit. I intend to go through the laws themselves and take time with each one of them to go in more depth with it so you guys will understand what they are and how they work. The intention Wallace Wattles has in the first chapters that we read before today is essentially this, and this is my intention too at the very beginning of what we're doing, is to help everybody understand that you need to be rich. Okay. It's that it's not a bad thing to be rich. And that is the number one thing that's gotten in most people's way in the first place is our limiting beliefs around money and wealth. It's just how society has programmed us for the most part into thinking that we have to compete in order to have a lot. And on the competitive plane, people do kind of act like jerks usually, especially when it comes to acquiring wealth. And so that's what we see out there. But what we miss is that there's another way to do it. And I think almost everybody on the planet, if they truly understood there's a way to do it in which you don't have to harm another human being and you don't have to take anything away from somebody, and that by you receiving more, somebody else doesn't receive less. In other words, we can all have what we want to have, be what we want to be, and do what we want to do without violating the rights of others and getting in their way and harming them, then we would probably want to know how to do that.
Awesome.
And
Yes.
the way it absolutely exists, it's just people are unaware. But we automatically manifest things in our lives, but most of us are manifesting based upon old programs. We're manifesting on the paradigm is the word Bob likes to use, but we're manifesting based upon our current belief system, not whether it's right or wrong or good or bad. And we're on autopilot. Our subconscious mind put us on autopilot. And by the way, that's what our subconscious mind was designed for. It was designed so that we could learn something, master it, put it on autopilot, so we could learn something and master it and put it on autopilot, so we could learn something and master it and put it on autopilot. The challenge is the subconscious mind doesn't discern good, bad, right, or wrong. So it doesn't care what it is that you learn and think and believe and are trying to master or have mastered. It just has its purpose. Its main purpose is to keep us alive. And then its next purpose is to help us do things. For instance, I know I've done this 2 days in a row. I'll do it again. We're all different ages on here. But can anybody tell me what 3 times 5 equals?
15.
Okay, what's 6 times 8? I know there's people that know this, they're just not coming off. I get that. Okay, 48.
48.
Right, right. What's 7 times 7?
49.
Right. Here's the thing. Why do we know that? Like, did we pull out a calculator? Did we, start counting on our fingers and toes? No. We were able to do that because repetitiously, when we were in school, it was repeated to us over and over and over and over again. But if we take a number and I say, okay, what is 52 times 37? Most of us can figure it out, but most of us can't spit it out instantly. Some people have minds that will, okay? But for most of us, we don't. Why? What we have to do is pull out a calculator, or we pull out a piece of paper, or in our own head, we create a chalkboard of some sort, or we use our fingers and toes, but we can figure out the second equation, no problem. But why doesn't it just come to us instantaneously? Because it wasn't repeated over and over, and the subconscious mind hasn't taken that over as something that it's mastered. We were taught 12 by 12, and beyond that, we really weren't taught to do it. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Why do we know that? Because we use the letters every day in the alphabet and in speaking and things like that. So those things are mastered. Some of us drive cars, right? When we first learned to drive, we were a mess, and we had to totally pay attention to what we were doing. Now we're able to drive a car while doing a lot of other things that, yeah, the world says not a good idea. And the truth is, yeah, it's not a good idea. It's dangerous. However, unfortunately, this is the way it works. The more you do it, the less dangerous it's going to become for the most part, because somebody who's younger, who already has been texting, since the day they were born, and then they start driving and texting, it's not going to be quite as bad for that person as probably the 40-something-year-old or 50-year-old that starts driving and texting. Doesn't mean you should drive and text. It just means that the 50-year-old's trying to learn. They already know how to drive. They're trying to learn how to text. And the 16 or 17, 18-year-old already knows how to text. They're trying to learn how to drive. But once the subconscious mind masters those two things together, you could go up predominantly. You can go out and do it. And chances are you probably won't cause an accident. Somebody else will maybe, but you probably won't, because your subconscious mind now is running the show for you. And your subconscious mind, the results you have in your life right now are predominantly somewhere between 95 to 97% of everything that shows up in your life is showing up because of what's on autopilot in your programming. So the real key is to learn the laws, understand what they are, understand how they work, understand how law of attraction works, and then purposely choose the things in your life that don't please you and make it your intention to flip it around, and then ultimately take the process and put it on autopilot. So now the subconscious mind is doing all the communicating with formless substance, and you're not having to think about it very much. That's why most of the people that are pretty wealthy and make a lot of money don't spend actually a whole lot of time thinking about it. They don't have to. Their subconscious mind, matter of fact, if they dip below a certain level of income or wealth, their subconscious mind will go, uh-oh, this isn't right, this isn't normal, and it'll try and bring them back up to whatever is normal. And for them, for us, if we're not where we want to be and we're below where we want to be, our subconscious mind, honestly, it doesn't care. It doesn't discern good, bad, right, or wrong. What we have to do is convince our subconscious mind that the new place where we want to be is what should be normal for us. Once we convince it that that is what's normal for us, then we don't have to work so hard to manifest what it is that we want. And our subconscious mind will keep us on track in receiving what it is that we want. I know we're a little bit over here, so I'm going to stop the recording and say that the meeting is essentially over. However, I'll stick around for another 5 minutes or so if you have any additional questions. But I don't want people to think, oh, this is a 45-minute thing and Kevin's going to go an hour every day. You guys are welcome to go at the end of the 45 minutes. But I know since you're here, some of you might have a question you want to ask that will bother you if you don't get it answered before tomorrow. So I'll try and answer it. Okay, so recording's going.